Hello, Unfiltered friends, and welcome to yet another episode. It's so exciting. This one, I was really grateful that Dono, Dax, whatever he prefers to be called, came through Denver so I could actually get him on set to tell this story. I've always said that being an influencer, which has a lot of negative associations with it, being an influencer to me is a verb, not a title. It is an action. How do you influence? And make sure that the messages that you put out into the world are positive, because you never know when it's going to help someone. And this is probably one of the most intense examples of that, where a message that I put out into the world saved someone's life. I'm really excited to share this with you guys. Before we get started, thank you to the sponsors of the podcast, all of my Twitch people, twitch.tv/supdaily, where you can also watch these live, so make sure you tune in there. And then also to my Patreon people. Patreon is what helps fund a lot of the equipment and being able to maybe fly out to see some of these interesting guests. So thank you to Terry, Charles, Lena, Jonathan, Carla, Raymond, James, Luke, Eric, Jonathan, Paul, Frida, Gregory, Dono, he sponsored himself, Tracy, and Matilda Melvin. If you want to get Skype calls, handwritten letters, an extra podcast per month, follows on social media, patreon.com/Team Thompson. And let's get into this next episode of Unfiltered Friends. Welcome to the Unfiltered Friends podcast. Before we introduce you to our next friend, I want you to take a moment to think about everything that led you to where you are right now. Do you see how strong you are? Do you see how great your story is? I hope you do, and I hope you learn great lessons and get inspired by our next friend's story on the Unfiltered Friends podcast. And today I have my friend Dax on here, or do you prefer Dax or Don? I'll call you Dax.
I mean, this whole community knows me as Dax, so that's fine. But
yeah,
my real name's Dono.
Dono. This is gonna be an intense one. It's basically about how one of the messages that I put out into the world stopped him from ending his own life. I don't really know how else to put that without it being...
You can't really tiptoe around it. It's basically what it is.
But we have a story to build up before then. So tell people who you are, where you're from.
So I'm Dono, a.k.a. Dax. I live in Seattle, Washington. I was born and raised there. I did live in Virginia for about 10 years before my relationship ended, and I'm going home, getting out of the East Coast and going back to the West Coast.
Oh, East Coast summers are the worst.
The humidity. I mean, I'm a fat white boy from Seattle. We don't do humidity.
I'm not a fat white boy. I still don't like the humidity.
It's actually nice out here right now. It's nice.
Yeah.
There's no humidity and it's beautiful.
No,
yeah.
I went to Florida like 2 weeks ago, and I got off the plane. It was just like,
yeah. Well,
like I don't want anything to do with any of this.
I don't blame you. Florida. The only reason to go to Florida is Disney World.
Or every single conference is
because they have big facilities, right?
If I had big facilities, they could come here.
You know what? I'm trying not to be distracted. And now you're talking about big facilities. Bitch.
I'm a tease, I'm just...
It's just the way you are.
I'm just gay.
That's why we love you.
Yeah.
That's why we love you.
Well, I don't know about we.
Well, anyway. And let's see. What else about me? I'm 47, just turned 47. I work for a software company that develops solutions for police and fire. It's called Axon. We also manufacture the tasers and body cameras, etc. I'm a solutions professional for them, so I help the engineering teams build something that industry wants to buy.
I knew 7 of those words.
Yeah, did you?
Yeah, I totally grasped
You're
what
getting
you do
there.
now.
Last time it was only like 4.
Yeah.
So, you've almost doubled.
Almost exponential.
Yeah, that's exponential growth.
I love that.
Yeah.
I want to talk quick about a story, though, that happened recently so that we can all get an update.
All right.
So I was really grateful that you contacted me from my perspective in this moment, because I know you probably have people in your life that you could have done that with. So you are, do you mind talking about sexuality on here?
Yeah,
so you are...
I'm a gay. I'm like super gay.
You are a gay.
Yeah, I'm like a homo to end all homos. I'm gay.
You're gay,
yeah.
and you were saying that you had signed up to go. Was this an all gay camping trip?
Yeah.
So it's like a men's group.
It's so in Washington. There's a campground called TRC. It's an all gay campground. So gay and lesbian, and it's clothing optional. They have parties throughout the summertime. So every weekend there's like a different event, and you can buy a membership to the campground, which covers like your camping fees, and then you buy tickets to these parties. And so, not to spare everybody the boring details, but I struggle with like self-image issues and self-confidence, and part of my effort to try to battle those things is to put myself into positions that I would feel uncomfortable in.
I can't even do that.
It's hard.
It is.
And I wind up failing a lot, but I keep trying. And so I booked a ticket to go to this party weekend on the camp, and I received a message, a text message from a phone number that I didn't have in my phone that basically said, "Don't come, you're not welcome." And I said, "Well, who is this? And who are you to tell me that I shouldn't come?" And they say, I don't remember the exact language. I deleted the text, but it was basically, "We have enough drama fat asses, and we don't need you," or whatever, "and you're just not welcome." And I mean, it blew me away because I didn't know anybody in this group. I didn't really interact with a lot of those people. I maybe knew 2 people and maybe had seen them once or twice. And I thought, being me and like completely introspective and in my head all the time, I started analyzing every interaction that I had had in the 3 events that I'd gone to leading up to buying this party ticket to think, who did I offend? Who did I make upset? It wasn't about being mad at that person for saying those things to me. For me, it was all about, what responsibility do I have in making that person feel so bad that they wanted to tell me I shouldn't come? Did I say something?
And they were cowardly too.
Oh yeah, hiding behind a text message. And, so I don't like to bother you. I know you're busy, and a lot of people rely on you for advice, etc. Yeah. But in that moment, I needed to talk to you because I knew, number one, that you would tell me honestly what you thought. You'd call bullshit if bullshit was bullshit,
yes.
And that you have never not told me, pretty point blank what you believe. And so I was at lunch at work, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm gonna call Chris. And so I called you, and you told me what to do. Basically, it was like, first of all, go to the party, report what happened. Don't just let this slide. And
it's like one person's voice. There's so many people there. But did you bring it up in the group text message?
I did. So I texted the person that was organizing it. His name was John, and I told him what had happened, and I sent him a copy of the message, and he didn't recognize the phone number either. But he just said, "You are more than welcome to come. It's for everybody to come." So I don't know who that is or why they're using, my event to spew their hate or what have you. But yes, you absolutely should come. So he was awesome, as was everybody else. The camping trip was a lot of fun. I had a great time. Went to dance parties, and it was just fun, being out in the woods and and being surrounded by people that are like-minded, and where you just get a lot of positive energy. I mean, people I didn't know were coming up to me and hugging me and saying hi, and it wasn't a result of that because I didn't publicize it. I didn't want to be that guy, right?
Because then you turn into that drama fatty.
Right. I didn't want to be that. I didn't want to be what the guy was accusing me to be. So I had a great time. And just the most recent update, I have been in law enforcement my entire 25-year career, so I know lots and lots and lots of police people.
Yeah.
And it just so happens that a police officer in my local city, I've known since she started. She was a brand new rookie and came and sat with me. And she helped me track down what was going on. Unfortunately, it was a Google Voice number, and it was buried like 2 levels deep in anonymity, so we didn't know who it was. It was like 2 fake names, so it's going to go nowhere. I went and had a great time.
Yeah, I think that, and like you were obviously upset about that. Why would, because you want to feel accepted. You already struggle with like image issues, and to have someone say that you weren't worthy because of how you look.
Right.
Because you're not a dramatic person.
No.
So
no, I loathe drama.
So like, it's just like the dramatic part. Has this person even met you?
Yeah, that's what I mean. It clearly didn't know me very well.
So I think that's like the biggest lesson from that is like, we're going to hear negative voices everywhere. Understand that it's one individual's opinion,
right?
And the majority of the people will be loving and accepting. And you had a blast.
Yeah, I had a great time. I had a fantastic time. There wasn't a single bit of negative energy that came from anyone other than me. Of course, I had my own anxiety that I had to deal with.
Yeah.
There was a couple times where there was a big groups of people, and I just was like, okay, this is just a little bit too much for me right now, so I'm going to go back to my campsite and just lay down in my tent or watch the river or look at the stars or whatever. But for the most part, I had a fantastic time. Yeah,
Good.
And I've been actually back twice now for two different events.
Fun.
Yeah, it's a great time.
And are you getting to know people along the way?
Yeah, lots of people, made lots of new friends, and a lot of great, really cool people that are just awesome. And towed a trailer with my new truck 4th of July weekend.
Yeah.
Went up and didn't have to sleep on the ground, which was awesome.
So was the truck experience that you had when you came out to visit me for Thanksgiving, did that inspire you to get a truck, or did you always want a truck?
So I've always loved to camp. And I didn't do a whole lot of camping except on my motorcycle. And on my motorcycle,
we go camping?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Let's plan a camping trip.
Yeah, we should totally go camping.
There's so much camping here.
Absolutely.
So much nature here.
Yeah, beautiful. Same thing in Washington.
Yeah,
beautiful places to go camp. So yeah, I just I wanted to be able to experience camping beyond my motorcycle, but the only gear I had really was geared toward motorcycle camping. So I don't have a way to cook. I don't have a way to bring food because you can't bring that on the motorcycle. So I went camping once with my tent gear and all that stuff at TRC. And thankfully the kindness of strangers, like people would feed me, and I mean, it was great. So I didn't have to worry about it. But I wanted to kind of evolve camping into something a little bit more sophisticated and a little bit more long-term than just the couple of months in the summertime that you can go. So I thought, all right, I want to buy a camp trailer. I have several friends that have one. So I've been thinking about it for months, and I thought, well, the first step is to buy a truck or something that can tow. And I just fell in love with this Colorado, so it's great.
Yeah. I'm so
beautiful.
glad that you got that, because when we tried to go to St. Mary's Glacier, it was like 60 degrees in Denver, and you get to St. Mary's and it's like blizzard.
Yeah.
And it was just
That was great.
Oh, but I'm glad that I've gone back since and hiked some of it. I couldn't hike all of it because I was with low elevation friends that wouldn't have been able to hack it because it's already at 9,000 feet.
Oh yeah.
So
well, even just the three of us when we were up there.
Yeah.
We were.
But I've been training at higher elevations because
I've been here over a year now, right? Or almost
7 months, about 8 months. I want to do some of the 14ers, which is 14,000 feet. You start hiking at like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. Speaking of hiking, by the way, this one. If Chris tells you that you're going to go on a short, low exertion hike, you need to check yourself because the boy lies.
Okay. So we're at Red Rocks and we're hiking around, and I got a little turned around, and it turned out that we weren't on the level where the car was. That the car was indeed up. It was a solid 200 staircase.
He was trying to kill Frida and me, is what he was trying to do.
Frida and Dax were both.
A-Dog was doing okay, but Frida and me were having
it was a struggle. But you know what?
It was beautiful.
You made it. It was an experience to remember.
We devoured pizza afterwards.
Yes,
so,
I haven't been back since.
Really?
No, because it's Chicago style pizza, but it's not.
It's
Lou's.
not in Chicago. Yeah, it's not Lou Malnati's.
And the first time we met each other in person was at Lou Malnati's.
It was at Lou Malnati's, yeah.
Which is what a great segue.
Yes.
So you talked a little bit. You touched a little bit on the fact that you lived in Virginia for about 10 years.
Yep.
What was your reason for moving to Virginia?
I moved for a relationship. So that's
a big move.
Yeah.
Across the country for someone. They must have been very important to you.
In 2004, I was working for 911 still, and I was sent to Virginia for some training and in Reston, Virginia. And while I was there, I met someone, and we hit it off really well. And we dated long distance for a couple years. He would come visit me in Seattle, and in between there, I actually moved from Seattle to Chicago and back from Chicago to Seattle when a job change didn't work out. So he came to Chicago and Seattle, and I went to Virginia or to DC, and we would hang out, as often as we possibly could. We did a cruise vacation in that time frame together, and we just, we fell in love with each other, and it was yeah, I know you don't want to talk about those emotional things. And then in November of 2006 is when I started working. In April 2006, I started working for my last company, and I traveled, and it didn't matter where I lived. And so I said, well, what if I moved to Virginia? And so we worked it out. We bought a condo. I moved to Virginia, and we started our life together in November of 2006. It was great.
It was a beautiful thing.
It was a beautiful thing. Yeah, we had 2 cats. It was great. 3 cats.
The cats thing. I'm not on board with the cat thing.
I know you're not on par with the cats.
Well, I like cats. I just can't touch them.
Your body doesn't like them.
Yeah, my body's like, mm-mm.
Like, no, thank you.
No, sir.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so you guys had, to my understanding, like you had a well-paying job. He had a well-paying job. Yeah. Beautiful condo.
We were everything that you would expect a couple, and regardless of sexuality. I mean, heterosexual, homosexual, doesn't matter.
I can't wait till we get to the
Right.
point where we don't have
It doesn't
to
matter,
differentiate.
right? You just
like
talk
you're
about
just
it.
a
Yeah.
couple.
But if you were to look at us from the outside in 2006, especially, and going forward, we had the struggles of moving in together for the first time that anybody does. Learning, he leaves the seat up, or he doesn't put the toilet paper the right way, or stupid shit like that. But
Yeah, the important things.
Right, the important things. But we had a beautiful condo on a golf course in a desirable part of Fairfax County. I had a great job. He had a great job. We both had nice cars. We had nice things in our houses. In our house, there was just nothing that would have appeared as if anything was wrong. And that stayed that way for many years, for 5 or 6 years. Mm-hmm. And then you get to 2012, and we'd been together by that time for 6 years. We'd been living together for 4 years. And I just got into this place in my head where I was looking at what was going on in my own life, and I should be like super happy. I have a great guy that loves me. We have a good relationship. We talk with one another. We have a good house. We have a good jobs. We eat out. We go on vacations. We have fun. We do all the things that you're supposed to do to enjoy life. And yet I looked at myself and I was unhappy most of the time. And that's the best way for me to describe it. I don't know that I've ever experienced depression. And if I have, I don't know what to call it, but I just felt unhappy. I felt like things in everyday life that should bring me joy. For me, I love to eat. So like going to a place where they have noodles. I love noodles. I would go eat noodles, and I would just feel as if I had gone through it and there was just no joy in having eaten noodles, whereas before there was joy in having eaten noodles.
That very much sounds like depression.
And it probably was. And I, was too proud, stupid, ignorant, whatever, to seek any type of help at the time. It was just a matter of, I'm a big boy. I can handle this. I can move through it.
You got that man thing.
Right, exactly.
And I think we don't talk about that enough as men, like pick ourselves up by our bootstraps type thing, where, sometimes the solution is much more complicated than that. It's not just you're feeling sad, smile about it. You talk to a depressed person, you're like, why don't you just think positive? Like, I never thought about that. Like it's so much more than that. But we're taught not to seek out that help because we as men, we're supposed to just be able to handle everything on our own.
Exactly. Yeah. And I've always been painfully independent. I mean, I can still to this day say I don't need anyone. There are people I want in my life and I choose to have in my life, but there's that true genuine need. I have not experienced it yet. Not to say that I won't, but I haven't to date.
Do you wonder if you wonder why?
Sometimes I wonder, especially at this time frame. In 2012, I really thought is because I felt like at that time my partner truly needed me. I felt like if I wasn't there, that he would not necessarily fall apart, but he would be genuinely lost for a significant amount of time.
That's a lot of pressure.
And whether or not it was true or not, I don't know. I mean, but that's what I believed to be true. But I've never really felt that. I've always been, wildly independent. I think it goes back to the fact that even as a kid, my mom worked. She was a single mom. She got a job when I was in the 3rd grade, and I was a latchkey kid from that point forward. I came home. Sometimes I would fix my own meals. I would make top ramen or macaroni and cheese or whatever, and my mom would get home late. And I just was always very independent. And I've never been overly social. I've never been like the focal of any group of people. I've had friends, obviously, but I've never been in a huge social group.
Do you feel like the military contributed to that as well, or did that make you more social?
I don't think I was in it long enough to make it.
How long were you in the military?
I was only in like 8 months.
8 months.
Yeah.
And the reason that you're no longer in the military?
Because they found out I was gay.
Yeah. It's crazy. Like, it's crazy to think, like, we think how far we've come as a society, but, you're not old. And you lived in a time where you could be in the military and you could be removed for your sexuality. Before Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
It was before Don't Ask, Don't Tell. It was several months. So it was I went in October of 91, and then I was put out in 92.
What was the process for that? Like, how did they find out that you were gay?
So I had, it's a very long story. You can look at our other podcast or our YouTube video. Basically, there was a friend of mine that was in the same platoon that I was in that was struggling with a cocaine addiction. And he had found cocaine on post, and he had confided in me one night.
Where do you just find cocaine?
I didn't ask.
They're like, there's a cocaine.
Yeah. He found a dealer, let's put it that way.
Okay.
So he confided in me that he was struggling with this, and he was scared that he was going to get found out. And obviously that's a criminal offense in the military. They put you in prison, right? And at that time, anyway, my impression largely of the military would have been, we're not going to treat you. We're just going to put you in jail. because you broke the law. Whereas today, I think it'd be very different. If you had an addiction in today's military, I think they would try to treat you, but then they didn't. So he confided in me, and he was having a really hard time that night. He was breaking down into tears, and he was shaking, and an experience I had not had before. And I felt like I needed to connect with him and tell him that it was going to be okay. And so I said, hey, you know what? Everybody has secrets. I have a secret, you know, and I joined the military and said that I wasn't gay, and I am. And for whatever reason, to this day, I still don't know, he turned me in. He told our commanding officer, or actually our platoon sergeant, who then told our commanding officer that I was gay, and that was illegal at the time.
I don't like... Because you guys had, I'm assuming, like a decent relationship with each other.
We both arrived at Fort Leonard Wood really early for our classes. So you think about it like college, there's a semester starting. We both got there several weeks before the semester was going to start. And so we were just the two of us in the barracks for a long, long time. And we got assigned to these crap duties. We'd have to do KP, or we'd go do flag duty at post headquarters, or I drove around the post commander for a little while. I mean, just stupid stuff like that. But it was just us. So every night we went to chow together. We worked out together. We were just friends, you know, there was nothing special about it. And it certainly for me anyway, wasn't anything like I was attracted to him or anything. There was no danger of that.
So weird.
But yeah, I thought we had a really good relationship. And for many years afterwards, I felt like it kind of destroyed my life because I had these plans, right? I had a plan, and I was going to go to the military. I was going to get the Army College Fund and the GI Bill, and I was going to go to college, and I was going to become a pilot, or whatever my plan was at the time. And my plan derailed. And so for years afterwards, I asked myself, it's like, what did Dale think that what risk did I did I have for him? You know, what risk did I pose for him, and why did he feel like he needed to do that? And there's no answers. You know, there's only hypotheses.
You'd have to hear from him,
right?
Have you ever tried to find him?
No. I really don't have any interest.
I would be so curious.
Really? Yeah,
just to answer those questions.
Yeah, I've never been.
And you
interested.
know, you have the ability to find him.
Oh yeah, I could find him, especially in today's world with social media the way it is. Yeah. But yeah, no, I spent a lot of time basically on the hamster wheel in my head trying to figure out why.
You don't think that would give you some sort of closure?
No, because I closed it a long time ago.
Really?
Yeah, I closed it a long time ago. Years ago I dealt with that. I firmly believe that he was not a bad person. I think he was a really good person. I think he was struggling with a really evil addiction. And at that point, he was terrified of what was going to happen if he had been found out. And so I choose to believe that the reason he did it was to divert any attention that might have been focused onto him and to put it on me.
Build up some goodwill.
Right. Basically just get the eyes off of me, because we were the only two in the barracks. We had one sergeant and us two. So there's like a platoon of two.
So he's just sitting around by himself after that.
Well, they actually shipped him to another company the next day. So I never saw him again. So I choose to believe that he did it because he was scared, and that he didn't do it out of any sense of malice or wanting to hurt me or even homophobia or anything like that. You know, I don't know, but I choose to believe that it was just because he was scared.
Were you out?
No.
At that point in time?
No, not at all.
So what age did you, like, what was the process? Because you're not out, and that probably set you back a little bit.
Yeah, it definitely did. I mean, I didn't come out until I was 29, and I came out because
later in life.
Yeah, I came out because I met somebody, and we were dating, and all my friends and coworkers are like, "Why are you so damn happy all the time? It's driving us crazy. You're like fucking, cotton candy."
Which is so silly. Why can't you just be happy somebody's happy? Like, why are you so happy?
Well, they just want to know, and my closest friends and my family wanted to participate in why I was happy. So I get it, but it came off like you said, like why are this?
Why are you happy?
Right.
Like, well,
and some of them did have that effect, especially
because they're jealous.
Especially some of my dispatcher friends that at the time, dispatchers are very harsh, cruel, direct
you guys
people.
Deal with a lot.
Right. So there's no room for fluff in our world, and so they were very. It was interesting.
So what was that coming out process like?
It was, so I came out to my best friend first. His name's Vince, and I told Vince that I needed to talk to him. Vince and I rode motorcycles. We did, he was basically like my brother from another mother, still is. So I told him I needed to talk to him. We met up, we were riding motorcycles, and I just we were sitting on the motorcycles on the side of the road, and I just blurted it out. I'm like,
hey, I like dudes.
Like, I'm gay. And he's like, yeah, I know. I'm like, what?
I don't like that response, by the way. It's very dismissive, because just because doesn't mean it's not still a big deal for the person who's telling you.
Yeah, I didn't feel that way just because I know Vince really well, and that's not where he was coming from. And then I said, well, who else knows? And he's like, pretty much everybody. And I was like, well, shit, I didn't really even know technically. I mean, you always know. But it's until you admit it to yourself and you actually, I mean, I remember looking in the mirror in the bathroom saying I'm gay and thinking that was the moment I came out to myself, even though
you actually did like affirmations, but of your gayness.
Right. Basically, it was like, I need to embrace my gayness and start dressing better.
Start dressing better and pierce my nipple.
Yeah, exactly. That was much later.
Yeah.
Good heavens, you're just like dragging out everything.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Well, okay, I'm sorry. I'm scrolling through Facebook and I see your pride picture and there is yo big ass nipple with a piercing through it. I'm just like, oh.
Dude, I walked around your house without my shirt on. You've seen it before.
I know, but it's just like I was ready for that.
For it? Yeah.
I was like, I pull up and I'm not.
It's pride.
Yeah. No, I get it. I'm proud that you're proud.
Yeah. So coming out was really uneventful. The one I
remember you saying something about it being a little complicated with your mother, though.
Well, I was scared. I mean, I was terrified. I'm an only child. She doesn't have anybody else. My mom often talked about grandkids. She loves kids, and so there was just that kind of inherent self-imposed pressure in the absence of any external pressure.
You were just afraid of disappointing your mother.
I didn't want to disappoint my mom, and I didn't want her to think less of me, like, because at the time, even though I was almost 30 and being gay was not necessarily the taboo that it had been even as few as 10 years before when I was in high school or something, there was still that element of there's an aspect of you that it's broken, that you're just not quite right, you're one tooth short of a gear kind of thing, and so I didn't want my mom to think less of me.
Because you grew up, you were born right around the time where the idea that being gay was a mental illness still existed.
I was born in 72. So,
and when was and Stonewall
69, I think.
Yeah, it was still considered a mental illness back then.
Oh yeah, there was still, I think there's that book of diagnosis, I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah.
But I think it was still probably listed as, when I was born anyway.
So like you think about the mindset, like you're probably afraid maybe your mom adopted that mindset, or?
You never know, right? I mean, my mom was born in 1947, and so she grew up. The only benefit I think I had going in, and I've never talked to my mom about like what did she feel in the result in the wake of me coming out to her. But what I know about my mom is that she was very much a child of the 60s and the free love. And I mean, she danced in a club called the Bat Cave as a go-go dancer in a cage hung above the dance floor.
That's so cool.
I mean, she celebrated beehive hairdos, and, anytime I had a question about what's it like to do this substance or that, I mean, she knew, she lived that life. So there was an element of her that I believed was truly open-minded because of the way she grew up, but at the same time, you just don't know, because now it's not the 60s anymore, and now she's a mother, and she has a career, and she has responsibilities and obligations, so you're just never sure. So there was an imposed fear on myself, and I think, I can't speak for everyone, but I would imagine everybody that goes through a coming out story, when they have to tell their parents or they choose to tell their parents,
it's gonna go.
Right, you just don't know.
Yeah.
And as much as I believed I knew my mom, you still don't know.
So how did it go?
It was great. I said I wanted to come out for dinner. We had dinner, and my mom's married to the same guy, so my stepdad, we all had dinner. We're sitting around on the couch, and I am having all of this anxiety ramping up to the moment I'm going to tell them. And I had resigned that I was going to do it. I was not going to leave without saying it, and which is a big thing in and of itself for me. So we're sitting around at dinner, and I said, "Hey, my mom's washing dishes," and I said, "Hey, there's something I want to talk to you about." And of course, my mom is a little bit dramatic, so she jumps to the obvious, I've got a disease or I'm dying or something like that. She comes over and she sits next to me, and I start to cry because I'm like kind of getting built up to this moment. And she scoots closer. She's on my right-hand side. She scoots closer, and she's like, "Honey, it's okay. You can tell me." And so I just said it. I was like, "I'm gay." And she paused for a minute, and that's when I was a little bit worried. Maybe it may have been 10 seconds. I don't know, but it felt like an eternity.
Yeah.
So my stepdad, Fred's awesome. He's sitting across in his little easy chair, and he's just like, "Oh," and he went back to watching whatever's on TV. It was like no big deal.
He's where I want society to be.
Right. Fred is just the coolest laid back guy, just nothing complicated. And so my mom paused, and then she put her left hand on my right knee, and she said, "You're my son. I love you, and there's not a lot you can hide from your mother." And that was her way of saying, "Thank you for telling me, but I've known for a long time." And then she said, "What would you like for dessert? Ice cream or pie?"
That's
that
so
was it.
Nice.
I mean, and we had conversations after, I asked her, I was like, "Hey, what about kids?" And she's like, "Do you think you'll ever get married?" And I'm like, "Well, we can't get married," those kind of things. So we would have conversations in the future beyond that. but it never really came up as a topic again. It really just was about
it's a beautiful thing.
Are you going to be happy, and who's going to make you happy? And now I send her pictures of guys that I'm thinking about going on a date with, and she's like, oh wow, he's hot or whatever.
Yeah, so, and yours, we've talked about some of your selections.
Yeah, well, I'm making better choices now, so yeah, it's all good.
Maybe we'll get into that later.
Good Lord.
Yeah, you know me. I go balls deep every time.
Yes, you do.
So let's get back to you're in Virginia.
2012.
You've been with your partner for said amount of years. Great job, great condo, great life, but you're unhappy.
Yeah.
Did you have conversations with your partner about the fact that you were unhappy?
Nope.
So you just bottled it all up.
No, I am terrible at having those types of conversations with even acknowledging it myself, let alone with anybody else.
Do you think that you could do that conversation now?
Yeah, I think today I definitely could.
But you just felt like no one would listen, or that
I felt like it was unjustified. You kind of have to understand the mental state a little bit more. So you step out of your own skin. You look at your life from the outside, right? And everybody's like, wow, what a great life. They're a good couple. They have fun. They do all these things. They're living a great life. And then you look at, I was at the any time looking at the world around me, and the economy was doing fairly well, and we had a great president, and, society was advancing in the terms of accepting, LGBTQIA plus community, and the world was just doing really well. And I felt like at the time, how can all of this good be happening around me and me still feel bad? I don't understand. And what the message that started to replay in my head over and over again was, clearly you are wrong. Clearly you are broken. You are a bad human because of all of the good in your life, and you feel like shit.
Where does that voice come from?
I have no idea.
You have no idea?
I have really no idea.
Is there someone in your life that spoke to you that way, or did that just naturally occur?
No, I think it was just... I've been very fortunate. I've had very supportive family. My mom would often say, she wasn't a good mother. She would beat herself up about a lot of things. It was just me and her for the longest time, and she had lots of boyfriends, and there was all kinds of drama when I was a kid. But I tell her all the time, it's like, you know what? Yes, all of that stuff happened, but I never felt unloved or unprotected, and I never felt like I wasn't your priority. And so, despite all of those bad things, I have a cousin who had a pristine life, whose dad made a great living. He could have done anything he wanted, to go to any college, travel around the world, do anything he wanted, and he blew it. And he blames the fact that his mom was controlling or what have you. And I didn't have that at all. I feel like I had a great childhood. I feel like I had a great upbringing. Was it perfect? Did I have everything I wanted? No. Did I have tough skin jeans from Sears at new school year? Of course. But at the same time, I felt like I had a pretty good childhood. So no, I don't know where the voice came from. I really don't know. Other than I think that just the persona that you are, the person that you become through the experiences in your life, embeds itself somewhere deep in your psyche. And like I said before, I wasn't super popular in school. I would get picked on a lot in grade school. I got beat up on a daily basis walking home. I was made to drink mud puddle water and all kinds of things because...
Mud puddle water?
Yeah, 6th grade bullies are awful.
So they would just shove your face into the ground?
No, well, basically they would tell me I was going to get beat up unless I drank the mud puddle water, and then they let me go home. So it was just... And I have always marched to the beat of my own drum, not to be too cliche. I never had to have the right clothes, and I never had to have the right... Like, kids in school, when I was in grade school, would have Crayola crayons. I had Kmart crayons, and I was okay with having Kmart crayons. So I just was never... I didn't fit in, and I didn't care about not fitting in. But at the same time, obviously, that has an effect on you when you realize that you're on the outside looking in all the time. And it wasn't until high school. I lived in a relatively small town in the south end of the county, and there was one high school that served a large area. So there's 1,500 students in my high school. And it wasn't until I got to high school where you have this large, diverse group of people that I finally found those that felt like I did, and that didn't care about the right clothes, and that they liked the theater, and it was cool to go play with geek technology stuff, and they liked computers. And then I found people that I could be friends with because we had a lot of things in common, and I didn't feel odd anymore. But I think by that point, obviously I'm not a professional, but I think by that point, whatever voice in my head was going to talk to me in 2012 had already been rooted and had been growing for a while. And so, yeah, I looked at this awesome life I had. I looked at the world around me, and everything should be great, and I felt like shit. And the only thing I could equate to is that I was broken, that I was the reason that was happening. There was something wrong with me, that I can't see all the good going on.
From what you described, you said you felt guilty for feeling sad because you saw how much suffering happens in the world.
Yeah.
And that's a danger of comparison. You know, like it's so because you don't actually know what someone's life is like. It's interesting. There's a Netflix documentary called Happy, I think and they follow a family that like lives in a mud hut and like lives in severe poverty, but they're so happy. Yeah. And I think like the comparison, like to assume, you know, that if people who have less live a worse life, I think that's where it gets a little dangerous for people, and why it's really important just to focus on your own happiness. And if you're curious, you know, ask someone like, do you enjoy your life? Like, let's get that information before making those assumptions. Yeah. So that negative speak got louder and louder.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It got really loud. To the point where I thought, I don't remember when I first contemplated suicide. I couldn't really pick a date. But it got to the point where I was just like, it wasn't that I wanted the pain to end, or that I didn't even pain. That's hard for me to describe it. It wasn't that I wanted the sadness to go away.
Yeah, you felt empty.
It was that I felt like I didn't belong in this world, because how can someone have so much and be so unhappy when there are so many people that have nothing, or you just can't justify your existence. At least I couldn't. And so I started making plans. I was just like, this is, and that's just me. I'm a planner. I don't do anything usually. I have some degree of spontaneity, but not a ton. Yeah.
When you described, the first time we talked about this, when you described the process, we'll get into that. I was like, that's like maybe the most type A suicide I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. It's pretty
and the
crazy.
thing is, the thing that makes it even more scary is that you had to think through that whole thing, which means you were so sure that for almost the entire experience, you knew that was what you were going to do.
It was 6 months. It was 6 months in duration. Yeah. It was probably February that I started really contemplating it and putting together a solid plan. And then it was going to be September that I was going to actually do it. I was going to wait for my partner to be gone.
Oh, so
he was going to go on a concert tour and like 3 or 4 different stops. And so he was going to be gone. My big thing all along was that I didn't want any trouble for anybody else. I didn't want any loose ends. And so that's where the plan came from. It was really about not hurting anyone else any more than I already acknowledged that I was going to destroy people's lives, at least to some degree, by doing this. But at the same time, that feeling of letting other people down was nowhere near capable of overriding the feeling I had about being unworthy to exist at that point.
And that, like, I talk to a lot of people who in suicidal moments doing what I do, and I explain to them, like, the pain doesn't go away. It just transfers on to everyone that's around you, and you need to consider that.
Yeah, and I know that now, obviously, but at the time you're clouded.
You're so just unhappy.
Yeah.
Did something that I've noticed is, like, I've had a few friends commit suicide, and when they made the plan, they appeared happier.
Oh, yeah.
Did that happen for you?
I had this moment when I finally said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I was almost euphoric because there was a solution.
Yes.
There was an end in sight. There was a defined moment in time where I wouldn't feel this way anymore. And yeah, I had a great time. I felt awesome. And as I continued to, in fact, it's really kind of weird or almost macabre, but the more detailed the plan became, the better I felt. And
it's like light at the end of the tunnel.
Right. When I put the last stitch in that blanket, so to speak, when I figured out where, when, how, that I remember feeling almost euphoric at that moment, thinking this is going to be great. I don't want to say I couldn't wait, but at the same time I was like, this is the solution. This is the solution.
I don't want to get into detail about how, because I don't want to give anyone ideas.
I wouldn't do that anyway.
But like, were you looking at ways that were just painless and that you'd like coast off?
Yeah, it was going to be a chemical reaction that I was going to do inside of a bathroom at a hotel.
And you just get those chemicals at any store.
Oh yeah.
So it's like easily accessible.
Yeah, easy.
So were you careful with how you collected it? I guess it wouldn't really matter.
I went to the Safeway 2 blocks from my house and I bought everything I needed.
Did you wait until your partner left to buy the items?
No, I had a lot of it because some of it just appeared like laundry or cleaning, stuff. So he wouldn't have known any different.
Yeah.
The stuff that I did wait to get until he was gone was a lot of the preparatory materials for the bathroom. Some like Visqueen and other things.
What's Visqueen?
It's like a plastic material that's impervious to like chemicals and odors and smells.
So
and
you'd
stuff.
like coat the tub with that?
I was going to hang it in the whole bathroom. So basically, and again, I don't want to get into too many details, but what I was going to do was going to cause a noxious gas, and it could have caused problems for other people in the hotel and any responders.
So you just wanted to make sure that you
Right.
were the only one affected
Right.
by this, at least
Exactly.
physically.
Yeah.
Okay, so was there any point in time where like you almost slipped or someone got suspicious that was in your life?
Nope.
No,
I'm
you were
way
just
too careful for that.
stone-faced the
Yep.
whole time.
Yep.
Did
no.
people notice you got happier?
If they did, nobody let on, and I didn't catch up that they were noticing. If anything, maybe people just thought, hey, he was going through a rough time at work. It was busy, stressful, whatever, and now that's kind of passed.
Do you wish people had asked you more?
Maybe. Obviously, if I had done it, I would probably be looking up from wherever we would be now and say, yeah, probably somebody should ask me
Yeah.
something. But at the time, no.
That's why I always urge people, like, even if you don't know something is wrong with someone, like, ask the loved ones in your life, how are you? And like
and mean it and listen to the answer. Just don't do like the grocery clerk asks you, how are you today? And you say, I'm fine, how are you? And not really care, ask how you are and mean it.
Do you think you would, if someone had done that with you, you wouldn't have gone as far as you did?
Unfortunately, no. I'm pretty stubborn, and
You are. I could see someone being actually intimidated to ask you if you're okay.
Yeah.
Because I have a feeling you'd just been like, yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I would have
Yeah.
done had somebody said anything. So yeah, unfortunately, it probably wouldn't have made a difference in my scenario, but I'm sure that there are others. I don't want to discount the ability to engage with other people and ask them. So,
Yeah.
because my unique personality is mine, and how I would have interacted is one thing, but other people out there that are more vulnerable perhaps, or more on the fence about whether or not this is the right thing, that question could be the difference.
Yeah.
And it could be the one moment of caring that someone else says, and that changes that person's future, which is really what happened, with your video. It was
Right message, right time.
I mean, completely. It just,
Yeah.
as I think back on that night, because I mean, if we skip forward a little bit, is that
Let's
cool?
get
We'll
to
wait.
that point.
Okay.
So your partner is going away for a while. Do you have like a special goodbye? Like
No, not really.
You just
I
kind of
didn't wanna
business
let
as
in,
usual.
Yeah. I had done all my preparation. So I had bought my own funeral plot, or my own cemetery plot. I paid for my own funeral. I had very detailed instructions on what I wanted done. I didn't want any fanfare or celebration. I just, if
Did you research like how to write this stuff out? Or
Yeah. You can go to LegalZoom.com and get a will and
okay,
yeah.
so will.
Yeah, will, and then just a letter with my wishes, because there's no real legal document that says how your final wishes should be executed.
And did you have like a suicide note, like saying like this is why?
No, there was no why. There was simply instructions on what I wanted to have done.
Still very very type A.
Yeah. Why was unimportant in my mind.
That's true.
I was unimportant in my mind. So the why, who cares why? And maybe thinking about back on it now, maybe at that time in my life, I thought to myself, nobody else thinks I'm important either. So,
well, I'm like, I know we're like way past this, but like you being a part of my life since we had this first conversation, like you're very important to me.
Thank you.
If that means anything.
It means a lot, actually.
Yeah,
and I feel that way now about a lot of people.
That's good.
I know that I'm important now, and this was a long time ago. It's not significantly long ago, but it was a long, in the grand scheme of things, it was a long time
How long ago is this?
So 7 years. I mean, it was 2012.
Yeah, that's still pretty recent.
Yeah, I mean, it's not ancient, and I aside from the videos that we've done about this topic before and the streams that we've done, I have still not told my partner or my family the details. My family will never see this in social media. None of them have computers or anything like that. And my partner, I still love him very much, and we had an amazing life together, but he is very, very much the type of person that would take this on himself and make it as if he had done something wrong or failed. And so I just can't bring myself to do that.
Yeah.
In light of this, if this becomes, your podcast is really popular, so I may reach out to him and just say, hey, you might see this. And if so, but I don't want to force him to go watch it. right? I don't want
Yeah.
to. So it's a balancing act for me.
Oh, that's tough.
Yeah, but it's important for me to tell the story because I want, if there's anybody that ever watches this, that ever, a day from now or 10 years from now and sees it and knows that if you get to the point where I was, check yourself, check your attitude, check your beliefs, suck it up and ask someone, hey, is this normal? And it doesn't have to be a professional.
Don't reach for a permanent solution for a temporary issue.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
yeah.
So you get the hotel room. You have your clothes laid out.
Yeah. I was going to be naked, but yeah.
Well,
it makes it easier.
Meaning like clothes to be buried in, maybe?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I had all that. I wanted to be cremated, but I did have my clothes, yeah.
Yes, and notes for everyone.
No, there was no notes for everyone.
Or
there
just instructions.
There was an instructions that was going to be taped on the outside of the bathroom door for the responders.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you have any plan for how to alert someone, or you were just gonna wait till someone discovered you?
I figured that I was supposed to check out of the hotel at 11 the next morning, and someone would know.
Okay.
And so I didn't really have to figure out how to get someone there.
So you have all this planned out, but when you encounter my content, what were you researching?
So I wanted to make sure that there didn't need to be an autopsy. I was really afraid that my mom especially, and my partner to a lesser degree, I was just really worried that they would be involved in this long, drawn-out process to be able to establish closure, to just have the funeral and say goodbye. And so I was watching some YouTube videos from coroners that were talking about the process to deal with suicides and whether or not autopsies were required. And my goal basically was to say, have I documented clearly enough in my instructions what I did so that there doesn't need to be a determination of how I did it, right?
So had you?
Apparently. I mean, I was watching this video and trying to listen to what this guy had to say, and basically it came down to...
There's YouTube videos for everything.
There is, yeah, it's crazy. Well, and there's websites for everything. It's just nuts,
that's true. That's true.
So I'm watching this video, and I paused it to go to the bathroom, and I came back, and you know how if you're watching YouTube in the standard kind of format, there's that list of suggested recommended videos on the side. And I think third or fourth from the top was your video. You were in a black hoodie. You looked like some sort of a hoodlum. It was dark outside.
I am a hoodlum. That's me.
I think you were in it was LA, obviously.
I'm just really confused how my video got suggested in a playlist full of coroner videos.
Who knows? I don't know.
You know what? I'm not religious, but you start to question some things at that point.
So I sat back down at the computer and I went to hit play, and I saw this title and it said, "There's nothing wrong with you." That was just the title of the video. And I don't know why to this day I can't. I mean, normally I would have just like, whatever, what the fuck, let me just move on.
Because you had planned.
It was the next day.
6 months deep into this plan.
You were
at the finish line.
Yeah. I was hours away from executing my plan. And so I honestly don't know why, but I clicked it. And it had nothing to do with my situation.
I think it was relationship.
It was about relationship stuff. And at the time you were doing daily content, and so I'm sure you were, if I put myself in your shoes, you had been on a trip or something, and you would come back, and you were, I think you had just gotten out of the subway or whatever.
Yeah.
And so you were like, oh shit, I haven't done my daily content yet, so let me record something on my phone in my hoodie while I'm walking around Los Angeles in dark. And it was about relationships. It was something about, a relationship falling apart or something, and just realizing that you're not wrong because something in a relationship doesn't work out. And even though that had nothing to do with me, my relationship was fine, for the most part at that time. Just the title.
It was your relationship with yourself that was an issue.
True. That's true. I hadn't thought of that. Yeah. But just the title, "There's nothing wrong with you." And all of a sudden in that moment, and I don't know how long this took. I really don't have any concept of the timing of it, but I imagine it was probably several hours, where I just sat and cried and stopped crying and thought and cried some more and laid down and sat up. And it was about 3 a.m. when I looked at the clock and I thought, there is nothing wrong with me. Maybe I am an okay person, and it's okay to be sad sometimes when everything looks like it should be happy. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's okay to feel bad, and maybe it's okay to see suffering in the world and still be okay with having a good life. Maybe it doesn't make you a bad person to be born into better circumstances than someone else. And I started asking myself, well, what do you do then? what do you do as a person to try to counteract some of these other bad things? And I don't claim to be some prima donna, like great guy or anything like that. I give money to charity when I can. I do little things when I can. I support people in things that I believe in to try to make a positive difference in the world. But I just went through this, what I imagine was a several hour process of realizing that there was nothing wrong with me and that I didn't need to do this. And in that moment, I tore down all the stuff. I packed up all the junk. I threw away all the chemicals in the dumpster at the hotel. I found every piece of note or documentation that I had done. Everything was on paper. I didn't do anything electronically.
Smart.
And I found everything and I burned it in our fireplace at home. And I went home and I crawled into bed. And I woke up the next morning and I was just different. Everything looked different.
So crazy. Like, it's just like so planned out and just like one message at the right time. And that's why, like, you know, and I made sure that you were okay with it. That's why because I applied for the TED Fellow program, why you being alive is my crowning achievement, because what you're describing there is exactly why I do what I do and why I urge other people who are influencers to make sure that, like, even if it's just some silly quick video with your phone, that you're putting out a good message that will impact people, because you just never know.
Yeah. I mean, it's 90 seconds of your life that you know, completely changed the rest of mine. And yeah, it was, and you know, from that moment forward, I had a relationship with you, and you didn't even know me at that time.
Yeah,
you know?
I remember you saying, like, I want to figure out how I can help this guy. So you went and liked and favorited. I did.
I spent days because I had taken vacation, obviously, for that week, and so I spent days watching every video of Sup Ricky 06.
Oh, the music stuff.
Yeah, the music stuff. And I just always remember, you know, a thumbs up equals a kiss, and or a favorite equals a hug, or whatever it was. And I thought, well, this is how I can help this guy. This is how he makes his living. And I researched, you know, the algorithm and how things work on YouTube and stuff. And I thought, well, let me just go through, and I would watch them all.
Still so type A.
Yeah. Because I wanted to help. And I figured at that point in time, you know, in 2012, it's like, I will never have an opportunity to talk to this guy and tell him what he did. Never. I mean, I literally never would have thought. I mean,
why would you?
Right. Exactly. For me at the time, and maybe this is indicative of my generation or my age, but like, I think of people right now that are super popular on Twitch or YouTube or whatever. They're famous. I mean, you're famous. It's like, we went to a bar in WeHo and somebody came up to you and said, "Oh my God, I love your videos." I'm like, "Oh my God, I know somebody famous." And I know you hate it. I know that you hate when we talk about you being famous.
I hate the ego attached to it. And I hate the term influencer, because I feel like it's been really just like changed into, my purpose on these platforms is to give.
Right.
I need to receive. I need to keep the lights on. But like, I want to give more than I receive.
Right.
And I feel like this generation, especially because they're so young, they're there to receive attention. They're there to, like, you know, validate themselves. We're really like, my wish for them is that they have enough validation within themselves that they don't need it and they can give it to others. Like, they are in a position of privilege. Use that privilege to help people who don't have the same abilities, or that you do, or they do have the same abilities. Help them realize it.
Yeah. So it was amazing. And then you advanced many years. I mean, I guess we met probably 2 years ago.
About 2 years ago. Yeah, you were in Chicago.
I was in Chicago. You were in Chicago. Well, and I had found you on Twitch by then.
Yeah, you'd become, like, it's amazing how much closer I've become with people whose names I would see kind of fly by. But now I see all the time and like interact with them, and it's an actual back and forth, which is why I love Twitch. Why I love live streaming, because it's like an actual conversation. I just about died when so I play an online game called Eve. I've been playing for years, and the corp that I was in was going to have this big battle, and I was going to miss it because I was traveling for work. And one of our corp mates was going to stream it live on Twitch, and I'm like, okay, let me get all set up in this Twitch, which is why my name is Dax on there, because it's the character name in the game. And so I thought, I don't know what this is. I don't know what this platform is. I'll never use it for anything else. So why not? And now look at you.
Yeah, right.
Dax is a turtle.
So I signed up for that, and I'm watching the live stream, and I don't know how Twitch knows this, but it's like, someone you subscribe to in YouTube is live right now, and it said it on the side of the stream.
I think I have. Maybe
you link it or something. I don't know what it was, but again, it took me right back to that night in 2012 where I'm like, holy crap, here he is on the side
aligned.
So I'm like, fuck the battle. I'm going to go see what this is. And I click on it and then you're live. And I probably waited 20 minutes before I typed in the chat.
Yeah.
Because I knew at that point that at least I believed that I would never tell you, how I'd come to find you or know anything about you. Because I thought, how could you possibly put that kind of weight on someone? And so I didn't want to do that. And then as I got to know you more and interacted with the community, I realized, he probably would like to know, but I won't do it unless I can. It
validates my purpose.
Well,
because I put messages out there into the world, and for the most part, I don't hear back from the people that I touch.
Yeah.
I don't know how it affects them. I just know that when I put it out into the ether, that it's a good message and that I'm proud of it.
Yeah, so I decided that I would, when we finally got to meet in Chicago, I was terrified.
Were you terrified?
Oh my God.
Really?
Terrified.
Why?
Terrified. Well, I don't know. I mean, think of everything that led up to me meeting you.
Yeah, it's a lot.
There's a lot there.
There's a lot, yeah.
There's a lot of water under that bridge. And so I was like, is he going to be the same as he is on TV? No, he's not going to be the same he is on TV. He's a real person. So
I think I'm pretty similar.
For the most part, yeah. You let your guard down a little bit when the camera's not on. And so
I can't be like, all the time. No one want to be my friend.
But that's okay.
Yeah.
And so we were texting back and forth about ETAs and driving and which one we were going to go to and which one was closer to your house. And I just like, oh my God.
It's happening.
At one point I was like sweating. I'm like, it's Chicago in the wintertime.
Yeah.
I'm sweating.
It's a rare thing.
So I show up to Illuminati's. I didn't know what kind of car you were going to be in. I'd never seen you beyond, the shoulders, head up shoulder kind of thing. So I get out of my car and you got out of your car and you come walking over. And I was like, I said internally to myself, like, holy shit, he's real.
I'm
like,
person.
He's real. And then you gave me the hug, we've talked about this in the community before, but his hugs are legit. Like, full on, like, woo! Arms around, hand on the back of your head, like, squeeze you tight, like he's known you your whole life hug.
Yeah.
And
this is before I knew any of this.
Right.
You hadn't told me.
And I wasn't actually sure until the moment I started to say it that I was going to tell you.
Yeah. You gave me the, like, I want to tell you something. And I was like, oh, fuck. Was this a mistake? Like, I'm having I want to tell you something conversation with someone I've never met before.
Oh my God. Yeah. Right. Talk about awful.
It's like right up there with like, we need to talk. Oh God.
Yeah. It could have gone a lot of ways, but we had a great meal and great conversation. And so I thought, you know what? I need this guy to know what he did for me. And,
it made a major impact on my life. Like even hearing that story, like I don't take on that weight as mine, because if I did that, I would be heavy all the time.
Right. Yeah.
But to know that even just the title of a video could move someone to live.
Yeah. Even if, it's, I wish that I could explain it in more detail. I wish I could articulate to a higher degree all of the nuance involved in that moment, because I think that if there's anybody out there that ever feels as if they're not worthy or they don't belong or that their pressures or weights in their life are too heavy for them to bear, I think that if I could articulate those nuances, that they would help in some way or another. But I can't. I can't say why those 5 words, there's nothing wrong with you, or 6 words, whatever it is. I can't say why it made such an impact on me.
I think maybe if we're trying to make impact, I can say from someone who receives those messages from people that it's not a burden. That's a huge message right there. Like you telling me that you went through that, I don't absorb that. It doesn't make my life worse. It doesn't weigh me down and make me sad. It makes me grateful, and it fills me with purpose. So like, you don't have to take on all of that on your own. And if you find someone in your life that you trust enough to confide in, you are not hurting them in any way, shape, or form. You are just unburdening yourself.
Yeah. I think that's an important message for people. I mean, I think obviously I can't tell what would have made a difference at that moment in my life, but I think if I had that message that I'm not going to harm someone else by being broken or by being in this state of mind, then maybe I would have reached out. I don't know.
And if you're alive, you're not broken.
Right. I mean, we all struggle, right? We struggle with bendy. Everything every day. I'm very bendy.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm not broken now. And And I wasn't broken then. I was in a bad spot. I was surrounded by a lot of darkness that I couldn't see past, but all it took was a light, one light, and then the rest of it was able to melt away, and you can move forward. And you know, now I'm successful. I'm happy. I'm living my life. I you know, see adventures and opportunities and everything. And I think you can't, as a human being, go through that experience and say that it doesn't in some way define you. I would love to say no. That experience, my brush with suicide, doesn't define me, but it's bullshit. It does.
It's part of your story.
Right. It is part of the building blocks that have built you to the point where you are today. And so the fact that I am successful and I take and own things that I do, and the way that I interact with other people, and the compassion that I feel for you know, the citizens that I work with in my job, and all those things, I think all of that has been formed and built by what I went through. And I hope that, you know, I don't tell this story. I certainly don't want sympathy. I didn't want it then. I don't want it now.
Good, because I don't care about you at all.
Good. I know you don't. You're just a cold-hearted bitch.
That's me.
There's no emotions. Don't ever try to find clips of crying or anything.
Yes. No, I've never cried.
Yeah, never.
On the internet or anywhere else.
Never, ever. But I just hope that by sharing this story tells people that you don't have to be by yourself. You don't have to fight through things by yourself. If you feel like you're by yourself, you're probably wrong. And there's probably somebody that cares about you.
We all go through so many of the same experiences, and we think we're alone because we're too afraid to speak on it.
Yeah.
And I think if you create, like, just like you've created with like the camping stuff, like you've created a network of people who feel similar to you, and you connected with them by being willing to be vulnerable. And I think that vulnerability is what people struggle with the most.
Yeah. Being vulnerable is hard.
Yeah. It sucks because you have to admit you're not perfect. You have to admit something's wrong.
And you have to open yourself up to being hurt. Right?
Yeah, it's very vulnerable.
Right.
Like, can we use the definition?
Can we define the word with the word? Yeah, no.
So what happened after that? Like, how much longer were you with your partner?
So my partner and I were together until 2016. So we were
So you still together for years. How do you not say anything?
It was easy. It was really easy because of, like I said, because of the type of personality he is. And again, I mean this in no negative way whatsoever. He's a very loving, caring person. But he would have owned it. He would have taken that on as himself, and he would have started to ask himself, what are all the ways in which I failed to lead to that point? And that's just not something I want to do. And so for me, it was just I'm just never going to say this.
So what ended it?
What ended our relationship?
Yeah.
We just became very different people. So I went through a stage where I was really aggressively trying to lose weight and improve myself. And he was very supportive through the whole thing. But at the same time, I just started to realize that I had suppressed a lot of the feelings that I had about how our relationship was going, the things that really bothered me. And I don't want to talk bad about him because he's a really wonderful human being. But there were aspects of his personality that just didn't do well by me. And the longer that we were in the relationship, the better I felt about myself as I was losing weight and doing the personal goals that were helping me with my insecurities. The more I realized that I didn't deserve to suppress how I was feeling about those things.
Yeah.
You know, he would drink a lot, and he was not an alcoholic, but when he would go out, he would drink to get drunk. And when he became drunk, he wasn't a very nice person. And he would say really mean things about me. And I didn't go to college. I don't have a college degree, yet I'm extremely successful in my career. And so he would call that out and say, you're not as smart as me because I didn't go to college. And I knew it wasn't him, right?
It is him. It's his insecurities.
Yeah, but it wasn't malicious, right? He wasn't doing it to try to hurt me. But there were just little things like that over the years we just grew apart. And when it came time to end it, I realized that even if he was as equally unhappy and unsatisfied in our relationship as I was, he was not a strong enough personality to say, we need to consider ending this or what have you. We had talked about therapy and stuff, and I had just said, that's not going to work. I mean, we just have some fundamental differences that are not going to come out.
Sometimes you got to be okay with just letting it go.
Yeah. And so ultimately we had gone to Disney World for my birthday, and we had a little bit of a conversation there about what our relationship was like and how he was feeling.
Broke up at the happiest place on earth.
No, we did not. It was months later.
Okay.
It was September, so it was
don't do that to the mouse.
Later. No. But ultimately, I had to end it because I wanted to be happy in a relationship. And
then you went back to Seattle.
Yeah. Originally, we owned a condo together, and so I was like, the market was terrible. There was no way we were going to sell it for what we owed. So originally, the plan was I would simply be a roommate. And it took a matter of weeks to figure that was not going to
work. It took me a matter of seconds to know that wasn't going to work, but you tried.
I did try.
Yeah.
And so ultimately what I did is I said, all right, here's the deal. I'm going to commit to pay my half of all of the house related expenses for a year, but I'm moving out. And I moved back to Seattle. And so for a year, I paid all my half of everything while he decided if he was going to keep the condo, sell it, refinance it in his own name, whatever it was. But I figured that's the least I could do for disrupting a life that he thought, at that point anyway, was not going to change to that degree.
Yeah.
And I have friends that call me stupid and it's like, that was dumb. And why did you do that? It's like, relationships end all the time. These are the consequences. I'm like, yeah, but I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
And if the positions were reversed, I would have appreciated the same effort. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
So life's been good.
Yeah, life's good. You know, my partner and I are friends. We talk on a regular basis. You know, he checks in on me. I check in on him. I got a birthday card from him last month, and we exchanged Christmas presents. And his brother's working on a custom art piece for me for a gift for someone. And so, yeah, we're good. I'm good. My career's going well. My personal life is kind of some hills and valleys right now, but
you've had some interesting dating situations because you bring him into the chat. You had the one guy who.
Do we have to really talk?
Yeah, we're going into this.
Oh,
you know,
Jesus.
We need some release from
Chris. I love you, but Jesus Christ.
So you had one
Frida, come help me.
Younger fellow who enjoyed the miles that you had.
Yeah.
And then you found that he was dating other people while he was visiting you.
He was trying to.
He was trying to hook up with people.
Not while he was visiting. So yeah, this. So we'll call him Ken to protect the innocent. So sure. Ken,
not so innocent, but go ahead.
I was in Florida on work travel for Miami. I'd been there for a couple weeks already, and this is, I don't want this to be too big of a surprise to you heteros out there, but gay people have apps that we use to hook up with.
Yeah, the thing about your apps, like mine's like, hey, your person is within a mile of you. Gay apps are like, they're right next to you.
They're
bitch.
100 feet away. Yeah.
Go make it happen.
Right. So there's an app called Scruff, and I was on Scruff.
I've been on Scruff a lot.
Oh, yes, you have been,
It's
actually.
not me,
I report them often.
Yeah, it's my face.
So I would always text those people, by the way, just as a segue, say, hey, Chris, how's it going? I didn't know you finally came out. And they'd be like, my name is Ron. I'm like, no, it's not. And see a report button.
You send a picture of you and me together.
Yeah, I'm like, so, how did this happen? Anyway, so yeah, it's funny. So he messaged me on Scruff, actually, and he was in New York City, or not New York, he was in upstate New York, and I was down in Florida, so far away. So he had to do some pretty significant actions on the app to find me that far away. So whether it was like searching by body type or hair color or whatever, the app gives you all those opportunities to find what you're attracted to. So we started talking, and we talked like all night long, chatting on that app. We exchanged phone numbers like a day later. We talked on the phone. We FaceTimed. When I got back home, we would sit on the phone together while like he was playing video games, and we would just talk. We developed a really good friendship, slash relationship that I really believed, and we should kind of go back that he was in his mid 20s. He was like 6'1", black, muscular, beautiful person. I mean, in my eyes anyway, very much my type of guy that I would go for. And so you take that coupled with the insecurities that I deal with, and like, wow, this guy is interested in me. I'm like, wow, that's awesome. So your brain starts kicking into overdrive about, all right, don't fuck this up. Don't fuck this up. And so ultimately I said, hey, do you want to come for a visit? We could hang out in Seattle. I'll show you around. We could get to know each other a little better. So he's like, sure. So I used frequent flyer miles to bring him out to Seattle. We spent a weekend together. It was great. We had a great time. We had an awesome time. We had great sex. It was a lot of fun hanging around the city. We took selfies together. We went on
selfies.
Yeah, I mean,
wow.
It was like legit.
It's pretty serious.
Right? Yeah, it was way serious. In today's world, that was like, we're
selfies are
married.
serious. #.
So we had a great weekend. And I truly believed that by the time the weekend ended, I had kind of resigned myself to like, well, that's it. I won't see him again. I figured, and this is the self-doubt thing that comes in that I still struggle with. It's like, he's met me now. He's seen me in person, despite the fact that I'd sent him honest to God pictures of, what I look like and all those things. It's like, this will be the end. And it's okay because I had a good weekend. I had a fun time, and I'm okay with it. So I dropped him off at the airport. And I was walking back to the parking space in the parking garage. I got in my car and I was headed out of the parking garage, and I got a text message from him, and it said, I miss you already. And everything changed.
Ooh,
all of a sudden,
possibility.
I'm like, wow, that's legit. And at that moment, I can honestly say I didn't know that anything bad was going to happen. I hadn't yet seen it. So I was like, well, I had a great weekend and I kind of miss you too. And we just started talking more and more. And before you know it, we were talking about, could we be together? What does he want as a relationship? What do I want in a relationship? What are his life goals? What are my life goals? And looking now, and even at that point, I can honestly admit that I knew that it was a big sham. I mean, he was saying all the right things. It was too perfect, right? It was too perfect.
You had to give it a shot, though.
Yeah. So if we skip over all of the superfluous, fluffy mumbo jumbo that happened in the many weeks and months preceding, we get to a point where he decided that he wants to move to Seattle, and we're going to try to make this work. And so I'm like, okay. So I scheduled a flight to go out to New York. He loaded up his car with all of his belongings, and we were going to drive across the country back to Seattle, and we were going to make a go at this. We're going to live a life together.
Yeah.
And on the way back is when things started to disintegrate. We were in a hotel room in Idaho. The last leg of the trip was the next day, or in Montana. I'm sorry, Bozeman, Montana. And I get a message on my phone in Scruff from one of my friends in Seattle that said, "Hey, isn't this the guy that you're moving in with?" And it was Kenji, or Ken.
Ken.
Yeah, you can edit that out, right?
Yeah.
It was Ken. And I was like, yeah. So I brought it up with him. I'm like, hey, why are you on the app? It's like, I thought we were kind of found each other, and we blew up. We had a little argument, and it was at that moment I'm like, oh fuck. I mean, I'm totally screwed. And I, for a moment, considered calling a taxi and going to the airport and just flying home. And like, he can figure out his own life from this point forward. But then that internal part of me that doesn't want to hurt someone was like, you can't do that. Yeah. This guy just drove across the country. He's in fucking Bozeman, Montana, has no money to his name, doesn't have, maybe he doesn't even have a half tank of gas left or whatever. So, and then he had a great story. He's like, look, I was just talking to friends that I know all around the world and blah, blah, blah. And he said all the right things again. And because I wanted it so bad, and I can admit this to myself now, I wanted him. I wanted the physical him. I wanted a strong, muscular body to curl up with me at nighttime. I wanted that physical aspect of it. In addition to what I had imposed upon the whole thing was a relationship.
Yeah.
But I can admit now that I was just a thirsty bitch, and I wanted this hot guy to be mine, and so I overlooked it all. And we drove to Seattle the next day. Less than a week later, he met my best friend and his family. We had dinner together. And I had a work trip coming up on Sunday. So that was a Thursday that we had dinner with all my friends. Sunday, I had to leave for work back to Miami. Or no, I was going to Huntsville. Anyway, so Sunday comes along, he drives me to the airport, which I like always had this thing that I would love it if somebody would care about me enough to take me to the airport and pick me up when I get home and was happy to see me, all that romantic bullshit that you don't do. But
yeah, none of us heteros like that.
So he dropped me off at the airport, and that was super sweet. And I flew to Huntsville, and it was Monday that, again, I got another message from one of my friends, a text message that says, hey, isn't this the guy that you just moved in with? And it was his picture from Grindr. And it was,
he was busy.
He was like, it was a full nude picture. And then he sent me some pictures of the chat that was going back and forth. And so, at this point, I just called him out on it. I said, this is ridiculous. What's going on? And he tried again at that point to sell the story.
It wasn't me.
I was just bored. I was just trying to meet people. I'm like, you can meet people without sending them your dick pic. It doesn't have to work that way.
And also outside of the dating
outside
app.
of Grindr.
Or whatever it is.
So a couple days go by, and I ultimately just decide, I talked with Vince at that point, and I kind of fessed up and told him everything. And Vince is like, all right, you gotta, when you get home, we'll take care of this. And he lined it up. He lined up my friend, another friend of mine. Is like, we'll have the muscle if we need to get rid of this guy. So I just told Ken, I'm like, hey, I'm going to be home on Friday, and when I get there, my plane lands at like 11. We're going to pack up your stuff, and we're going to put it in your car, and you're going to have to go. And I'm going to give you a few $100 that'll get you gas money. His family was all in Texas and Dallas area. So I said, I'm going to give you enough money to fill up your car enough to get to Dallas, where you have a support network, but that's it. Then we're done. And I, even though I'd made a lot of mistakes, I'd overlooked a lot of red flags. I had let my insecurities and my want of that thing to override all of the internal caution and warning that was going off, all of my instincts that I was ignoring. At least I stuck to my guns when it came right down to it. And what could have been, a tens of thousands of dollars mistake in the long term, if I had continued to just ignore those warning signs, wound up costing me a few $100 and some frequent flyer miles. And so it was a very valuable lesson for what it cost. now he gets a fabulous new life in Seattle. And
So he's still in Seattle?
Oh, yeah, he's still in Seattle. Our paths don't cross physically very often, but I see him, like, he shows up on my Facebook list of recommended friends all the time. It's like, are you fucking kidding me?
Here's people that you used to bang.
Yeah.
That's all that list is. You used to bang or you want to bang.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah.
I think the algorithm has a thirstometer.
I'm sure it probably does. And he's texted me a couple times, says, I'd like to see you. And I was like, I'm sorry, I don't have any interest in seeing you.
Boy, bye.
Yeah. So,
Boy, bye. So if you were to to surmise your experiences, like what you've learned from what you went through with the attempted suicide and what you went through with that guy, and you talked about your insecurities, like what are some of the biggest lessons that you've taken from all of this?
The single biggest lesson that I've taken from it is that it is okay to ask for help. It is okay to be vulnerable. It is okay to not be perfect. It is okay to not be strong. It is okay to seek out, although I have not done so yet, but it is okay to seek out professional help or therapy or counseling or what have you. That those are all things that are okay. And to trust your inner voice when it comes to warning symbols and signs and cautions. And, we are an evolved species for a reason, and our very biological nature is designed to detect problems and hazards and things that are going to harm you. And I think that extends to personal relationships. And so don't ignore those things.
Listen to yourself.
Listen to yourself.
Yeah. Do you want people to be able to reach out to you?
Yeah. If you are struggling with, suicidal thoughts, or you're just feeling bad, or you're not sure,
or you just want to be friends,
or you just want to be friends. Yeah. If you're, tall and muscular and you're looking, for a guy,
hey,
and you got your own money.
I've got my miles. You don't get the same miles that you used to because your job changed.
I'm not traveling as much.
You can't be flying out hot young men.
Exactly. I got to use them limited now.
So how do they find you?
Gosh, I don't know. I'm terrible at this. I guess on Twitter, I'm Dono Cole on Twitter. I guess you can find me DONNOCOLE, all one word.
Okay.
And I think I have an Instagram, but I have no idea what it is.
Okay.
So I'm sorry. I'm terrible at this.
So if you want to reach out, do so there. We're going to switch to the Q&A section. If you ever want to participate in the Q&A section, make sure you follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/supdaily. And also, if you want to know when I go live, you can follow there, or on my social medias, Instagram, Twitter, supdaily. And thank you for sharing your story.
Anything for you.
Oh,
love you.
Welcome. I hope you guys enjoyed that story. I love talking to Dax. He's so eloquent. It's always fun to talk to someone who is super eloquent. If you enjoyed this, make sure you give me a rating on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and I gotta say, guys, I'm really just loving every moment of these. So if you ever want to connect with me, Twitch Sup Daily, Instagram Sup Daily, Twitter Sup Daily, the branding is strong. And I'll see you guys all on the next episode of Unfiltered Friends.